Welcome to Opera Notes, where we talk about everything opera. Today we have a very special guest. It's Nuria Schoenberg Nono, who is the daughter of the great Austrian composer Arnold Schoenberg and also the wife of the great Italian composer Luigi Nono. And today we are going to talk with Miss Schoenberg Nono about Luigi Nono's.
Yeah, everybody calls me.
Okay, thank you. About Luigi Nono's Intolleranza, one of the masterpieces for the stage of the second half of the 20th century, and a piece undeservedly, let's say, largely neglected, not by the audience, but by opera companies around the world, and a piece which is nowadays more than ever relevant, okay, given the recent developments, especially in the United States.
Mm.
So, Nuria, please tell us whatever you can remember about Luigi Nono's work on the piece. And I'm going to bring about the names of people you might have met during the gestation of the project. For example,
Yes.
like Mario Labrocca, right?
Yes.
Well, the very famous Bruno Maderna,
Mhm.
Emilio Vedova, and Václav Kaslik, for example, if you remember any of them.
Yeah, the last name I didn't quite get. Who was the last one?
Václav Kaslik, who was the stage director for the.
Akashnik, yes. Okay. Got it. Sorry.
So tell us whatever you can remember about Luigi Nono's work on the project and I'm assuming you met all of these people who work with him, right? Coming and going into your house, by the way. Right?
Well, it was a pleasure for me to be involved in, on the sidelines, but still to be there and see how these people who were really very serious and very intelligent and knew already a lot about what they were going to talk to Nono about. And we met sometimes in our house here in Trideca, Venice. And they got along very well, and they asked questions, and Gigi answered. Gigi is what we called Luigi.
Yeah.
Venice. And well, I was present most of the time because I was very interested also in hearing what he had to say and what the others would ask him. So I think I can make some comments on that.
Okay. Yeah.
If you ask me some questions.
Okay. What can you remember about the conception of the work? Because apparently the original idea came from Angelo Maria Ripellino.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yes.
So how did this happen? I am assuming that you also met Ripellino at some point.
Yes, yes, we met. He was a friend,
Mhm.
and he was very precise in what he expected to do with Gigi. I'll say Gigi because that's what I call. Okay, and they agreed very much on how he should speak about these problems or about his work and everything. And he was very good at that. He was very calm and not not too, I don't know how to say it. I can hardly speak English anymore.
So he was very precise and very clear on.
Yeah, very clear. And he didn't like to, make jokes or say things that would surprise people, like that. He just answered very clearly to anything people wanted to know. And he was not secretive either about anything. He would tell people, why did he write this piece and where did he get the, friendship with uh, people he worked with too. And there was always a very, very good understanding between Gigi and whoever was in charge of the texts and the things that he used. So really, it was very straightforward, actually, working together.
So could you tell us how did this idea about the sort of the plot of the opera came about? This idea of an immigrant.
Yeah,
Yes. Whose idea was it originally? Was Ripellino or Luigi Nono? Do you remember?
I don't really remember, but I think it was Ripellino who wrote to him and said, "Would you be interested in talking about this or writing about this?" And Gigi he agreed and was quite happy to do what the other person wanted.
Okay, so basically he was not, Luigi Nono was not difficult to work with.
No,
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 no.
yeah.
Unless somebody, would, I don't know, suggest something that was against his own feelings or his own interests. I mean, he would talk about things that he really was interested in. And he was very open about everything when he talked. He didn't try to be, important or to be
Or to impose.
or to impose anything. That's right. He liked to discuss things with people, and he usually got along very well with people who interviewed him, like we're doing now, and 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 with the people who of theater and singers, actors, and people like that. He had a wonderful way of working with people, very respectful for other people's ideas and friendly. He'd like to do things as if all these people that he was working with in a theater or whatever, that they were friends and that they would understand why he did something, and if he explained something, then they would understand what he meant, and that was usually the case.
Okay.
He didn't accept to talk to people who we knew would not be on his same level. Not, I don't mean level with high and low, but you know, uh,
The same level of understanding of what he wanted.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yes.
it's very interesting you mentioned this because, I mean, the piece is fiendishly difficult for the singers, right? So,
Yes. There are so many, there are really good. He always looked for new young singers, mostly, and he worked with them directly, and that was wonderful to see. We also have a few videos of him working with
okay.
singers, and we could see how he made them sing something the way he felt it had to be.
Mhm.
He was not cruel, and he was not, angry or anything. But he really wanted to be sure that the text came over as it was supposed to be.
Okay. Now, when talking about pieces like Intolleranza or Al Gran Sole Carico d'Amore, well, one cannot dismiss Luigi Nono's political involvement in Italy. He was a member of the Communist Party, right?
Yes.
So, what was his position, if you can remember well, about communism or socialism, more appropriately mentioned, in the world at the moment, in the 1960s?
Well, in Italy, there was, the Communist Party and the Socialist Party too. And they were, at certain times, they were very strong, and they were really with the people who needed someone to represent them and to represent their ideas and their needs and so on. So he collaborated with those kind of people, and even even here locally on the island of Giudecca where we live, he would go to little meetings with all the people. And I remember I went and talked to the women sometimes and just tried to get his ideas just to be known. Why is he doing this? What does he mean by what he's doing? And he always wanted people to understand. He didn't just say, oh, this is what I wrote, and so you have to do it. So he was very, very good at that. And he did very good rehearsals too with the singers and the performers.
So he carried his democratic thought all the way through his
Yeah.
life, basically, his profession.
He believed in, and that's really very special and wonderful.
Mhm.
You were never surprised that he would do something completely off of his ideas. I mean, he lived he was friends with, for instance, here on the Giudecca, when we first came to live here on this island, it was mostly a place where there were workers and people who, mostly workers lived on the Giudecca. And as a matter of fact, some of the people from the other side of the canal, where he was born and where he lived, they couldn't believe that he would want to live on the Giudecca. And he was so happy about living here and learning to be one-to-one with people who were workers and whose lives were different from what he knew from the other side of the canal.
Okay.
He became friends, with these people. He would stay out, not very late, but sometimes in the afternoon for hours in the little bars that were out here on Giudecca, and talk to these people and have a little glass of wine or something, but not too much. And the people respected him incredibly here on Giudecca, the workers who lived here, because at that time when we first came here, it was mostly a part of Venice where workers lived. And so since he believed in the importance of these people and the way they thought and the way they lived, and he would become friends with these, and they would come to him and, with their problems, and he would try to help them. And they really respected him enormously. That was very nice.
And so just that we can get a feel of the situation in Italy in particular, in Europe in general, when it comes to immigration. In the 1960s, were there many immigrants from other parts of the world, workers, the working class,
Yeah.
in Italy, and particularly in Venice? Do you remember?
So many people in Italy who needed to work that there were probably not so many coming from other countries.
Okay.
But I'm sure there were some. You know, I'm no expert on that. I can't tell you.
Okay. Okay. Good. So going back to Intolleranza, and then there was the premiere performance in the United States in Boston in 1965, right? When Sarah Caldwell was the head of the Boston Opera Company, which has now disappeared and has become now the Boston Lyric Opera. So I am assuming you were there with him, right?
I was always there.
You were always there.
Rehearsals also, and I love to go to rehearsals and see, you know, the things that don't work right away and that they have to work on, and then just see this thing grow, you know. And I've always loved to go to rehearsals and follow all the path that Nono himself and the people who were performing went through. And he was wonderful. He had a great way of talking to people and convincing them to do something the way he thought was right. And he was respected very much by the singers and the orchestra people and everything. And then he was very lucky to have conductors, the best conductors.
Maderna in this case, right?
Maderna for this, and later also he always had, you know, really people who really understood his music and who were happy to perform it. So that he was very lucky about that too, because not every composer has that experience that he writes a piece and then everybody wants to perform it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think about my father who had to fight a lot to get performances when he was young, and Gigi was, you know, he was such a friendly person, and a person who other people realized that he was not doing anything just to be, you know, famous or I don't know what. He had ideas and he worked with people who shared those ideas. And he was very lucky also to have people who wrote texts for him and with whom he was comfortable to talk about his ideas. And well, that's what I did.
Thinking about that, it's famous that he did not like very much his experience in the United States. Can you recall something that?
Not like that, really. I mean, he was very interested in seeing, you know, this country that he didn't know very much about, and he was maybe influenced a little by, you know, by the communists in Italy who maybe were against some things like that. But he had lots of friends, composers and I don't know, conductors and musicians anyway, who were American, and he had very good feelings with these people, and you know, it depended what they believed in and how he didn't take a person and say, oh, you're American, so nothing, you know, I won't talk to you, you know. On the other hand, he wanted to talk to people and find out what they thought and discuss problems and things. And so he had friends from all over the world. I mean, I think that was very important because he, they made his life much more colorful.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Yes. What do you remember about the world premiere at the Venice Biennale? What do you remember about that occasion? The day of the premiere and the day after?
Ah. Well, actually, what I remember is that he was able to have very good singers, a very good orchestra, and a conductor in whom he believed, completely, and who also really liked the music and did his best to make it come good to the audience. So it, just as usual I think in his whole life, he was very good at working together with people because he was just friendly and open and would explain things in a very friendly and gentle way. And usually he had very good contacts with the people he worked with. And we were in Prague a few months before the first performance of this work, and he met these what's his name? The
You mean the Václav Kaslik
yeah, in
in
Prague we
Prague?
met him, and right away there was an understanding, and they were each was interested in the other, and they wanted to work together. And then that was not so easy in those days for people who lived in the Eastern
In
countries
Eastern Europe, yes, in the Eastern Bloc, and then
to come anyway to Milano. Well, that was not easy.
mhm.
But somehow these things always worked out because I think Gigi he had a way of talking to people that was not trying to force them to do things or to make his ideas, go through. He was such a nice person also, although he was very serious and very, very strongly believed in his ideas. And so actually he got along very well with the people he chose to work with and who were then really, on his side and listened to him. And he was very convincing.
And do you remember the reaction of the public?
I remember the action of the public, first performance of Intolleranza. We even have photographs of people clapping like mad. But I think it was in that, but I don't want to make a mistake. But in one of these first performances of his, there were some people who were against him politically.
Mhm.
And therefore, in one of these first performances, and I'm not positive that it was for Intolleranza, right in this moment, I can't remember, but I think maybe. And the people, they were composers who taught at the conservatory, and conservatories are conservers.
Yes.
like new things, and therefore, I think it was already with Intolleranza that the people from the conservatory, which Gigi had studied there, of course, before he was a young man, and they were against him. So they paid a group of, I think it was about 10 young students to whistle and scream and do things against. And they came, these people, these were professors. I mean, they were teachers of the conservatory. And they came to the rehearsals and they convinced some students, young people, to I don't know,
to create a riot inside the theater.
Good. To create a riot there, and they made a lot of noise and everything. But then at the end, it ended, And there was also what's very, very important. Well, I don't know. No, forget it. I'm not sure, so I don't say.
Okay. Good. And it's interesting that you speak about the conservatoire and how conservative
very conservative.
The teachers at conservatoires in general are. Many and most of the time.
There were always a few who were not and who supported him too, but not most of them. Wanted to keep everything as it always was.
And I want to bring back to your memory Luigi Nono's perhaps most prominent student to date, Helmut Lachenmann.
Helmut Lachenmann, that was so nice. He met him in Darmstadt during the summer courses, and Gigi didn't want to teach. He was absolutely, he didn't want to teach at the conservatory, and he didn't want to teach privately. But I guess this was an occasion to work together with a very, very intelligent and talented young composer. And so they worked here in Venice in our house and came and they talked about everything. And it was a very, very nice period because, it was nice for Gigi also for somebody to be really interested in his works and to see how, to make analyses of his works and things like that. And so that was a wonderful friendship which lasted forever. So, but Gigi was not, he didn't go out and fight for his things. People came and knew him and they saw this person who was so, he spoke very softly and he wasn't afraid to say anything that he felt. But he was also interested in the person that he was talking to. And I think that that's one of his really important, what do you say?
Gift.
Yeah, okay.
He had a...
No, he would want to know what the other person wanted, thought about things. He didn't just go, I believe this and this is that. No, not at all.
He really cared about other people.
He really cared about other people and about their ideas. And even if he didn't like their ideas, then he would come back and with his way of thinking, but not in an ugly way, he would just be very, very quiet about these things.
So he had lots of tact also with people.
Yeah. And he had lots of friends, and he very rarely spoke against any other composer too,
Okay.
which is very good.
Okay. So, one last thing. You had the foundation, right? The Luigi Nono Foundation, right? Where you have all of the files, the archive of Luigi Nono.
Yeah, and I'm very happy I could do that because I've already worked so much with Schoenberg.
Mhm.
You know, we had in Los Angeles and in Vienna, and so I was used to working in a what you call it?
Like cataloging work,
Yeah, all that sort of thing,
pre
catalog,
preserving.
yeah, all of that stuff. Okay, so I knew all about that from what I had done with Schoenberg, and so I was able to be, you know, to decide what should be done with Nono's his legacy, what remained of his writings and his letters, and he had very, very good uh, friendships all over the world, and there's a wonderful letters, and of course in the archive that we have here in Venice of his, we have copies of everything that we could put together, everything that he had, and letters that he wrote and received, and I tried to be I tried to find not really new ways, but useful ways to do things. I always, in the I run this archive here in Venice, the Luigi Nono Foundation, and I tried to not just do what all the other archives do, but to think, what does somebody who comes to us and wants to study Nono, what would they want to know, and what materials would they need to really understand him? And I don't, that's not, unfortunately, it's not everywhere that they do that, because they have, their rules, and then you come in and you get something for, 2 hours, and then you have to go away, and all that sort of thing. And we have here in our foundation wonderful Mitarbeit, wonderful people who work with us, and I've sort of stressed that what's important is to work together with these people and let them discover things by seeing manuscripts and writings and whatever, and then once you have a lot of information, you can do your own thing.
Yeah.
So and that works really well. And I think the archive is very good, and we have lots of people coming from all over the world, even, because people come to Venice, like Venice, and then while they're here, they come and then they see how this is all set up with photocopies of all of the almost everything we have, so that, and everything is open, so people can read all of the letters, and they can see all the writings that we have, and videos, and I've also done a lot of interviews with people who worked with Nono, or who still perform his music, and I think that's also very useful for the future. And I try to use the best, I'm tired today, I'm sorry.
No, no, don't worry.
I
We have,
try to use
Mhm.
the best methods to get, at the truth
Yeah,
and speak to all kinds of different people, and I do videotape them. So we have a wonderful collection of discussions and lectures. We have people come in and lecture, and not only musicians, because people, historians, or anyone who's interested. And so even now we have every few months we have somebody come in and talk about whatever they want to, or their relationship to Nono and to his music. And I think that's very useful too, and get people, not only musicians or musicologists, but all kinds of different people. And I
okay.
think makes the Nono Foundation very, very
Accessible, different.
yeah, it's probably a little different, but it's also very open to new ideas and to people, letting people talk who are not the famous musicologist, but maybe somebody who has just learned, some piece by Nono and wants to talk about that. And so I think communication, maybe that's the word that I
That I would
think
use.
is the most important thing. And of course, conservation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very good at conservation, of keeping everything in excellent situations, with all the latest, most modern ways of
Preserving.
storing things, yes, and reserve. So that's also important to me. And we have lots of people coming to stay, sometimes from different countries. They come and maybe they stay for 1 week or 1 month or several months. and they can look at everything.
Good.
But I don't have this thing about, and they don't have to have a doctorate or anything, If someone's interested, that's the really important thing. And they can look at anything and read anything, and often copy things that are, that are not under some special copyright thing. So it's well, for me it's fun. I really like it because people from all over the world come, and they come maybe for 3 days or 3 months or 3 years, and they use the materials that we have to understand Nono and his music. So I think that's very important.
Good, Miss Nono. Well, thank you for giving us this interview. Yes. And well,
Pleasure.
all the best to the foundation, right?
Thank you.